March Pilates Mat-ness. So I'm trying to build some excitement around a really fun fitness modality and a really helpful fitness modality for building strength, posture, and form. For those of you who may recognize my face, I'm TC Fit trainer Michelle, and we also have TC Fit physical therapist Matt on the call. We're going to serve as the moderators today, but we do invite you to ask questions of any of our team at any time. We also have TC Fit trainer Kelsey on the call, and she has a background and is trained in stop Pilates, and TC Fit trainer Kendall on the call here, also trained in stop Pilates, and you can ask her about the chair. I'm unfamiliar with the Pilates chair, so we look forward to hearing about that, Kendall. And then special guest today, Rhondi Miller. Rhondi, thank you so much for joining us. Rhondi is a physical therapist by trade and a balanced body Pilates master instructor and certified trainer. She integrates Pilates into her rehabilitation practice, and that helps treat injuries and correct impaired movement patterns. And Rhondi has been a physical therapist for over 25 years, so has built a wealth of knowledge we're excited to tap into today. And she's passionate about helping her patients find that pain-free lifestyle as best possible. She does have an independent practice called Movement Potential. And before we're done with our call today, we'll make sure we share her contact information with you. But we want to invite the audience out there to ask questions at any time. So feel free to throw those questions in the chat box or unmute and reach out to the group. It's an open forum today. And with that, I'm going to throw it over to Kendall just to give us our 60-second rundown of what Pilates is. For those of us who may be brand new to this modality, what can you tell us about Pilates?
Yep, so let's see if I can do a 60-second elevator pitch for Pilates. So if you don't know any background of Pilates, it was developed by Joseph Pilates in the 1920s. So he actually emigrated to the US about 1926. Met his wife during the voyage, and then they set roots in New York City, which actually shared an address with New York City Ballet. So there's a lot of roots within dance within the Pilates community. So it became very popular with that. But it's not just for athletes either. So it's an accessible way to build strength and core muscles for better posture, balance, and flexibility. But also Pilates can be adapted to provide a gentle strength training and stability program for or modified for seasoned athletes. So Pilates really is for everyone. And with that, I'm trained in stop Pilates. There's different brands out there. And when we talk about the 5 basic principles, they may change a little bit with each modality and which brand of Pilates, but within the stock community, there's 5 basic principles, and these really can be used within every strength training program. First one is breathing, so it helps to activate your transverse abdominals, the deepest layer of abs. And then pelvic placement is the second one. So a lot of times you'll hear the term imprint versus neutral. And so really setting you up for success for the different exercises that we're doing and proper ab engagement. Third one is head and neck alignment. So, typically when we're doing a flexed forward position, nodding your chin, and you can also, again, take that into a strength training program if you're doing deadlifts, proper head and neck alignment, making sure that you're not tweaking the back of the neck. So different things with that. Rib cage placement, being mindful of our obliques and proper alignment of our spine. And then lastly, shoulder stabilization. So we have so much mobility through our shoulder as the only attachment is to our shoulder joint. So really, helping to balance movement with stabilization and finding how to do that and the difference between those two. So those are kind of a really quick rundown of the 5 basic principles, and again, can be used within strength training programs. Did I go over 60 seconds?
Yeah, no, that was great, Kendall. Thanks for throwing that out there. I know it started to raise a lot of questions that those of us may have about Pilates. I have shared a link to a TC Fit video that just gives a little bit more information about each of those 5 Pilates basics. So that can be a reference to anyone out there if they want to learn more about those principles. I'm going to turn it over to Rhondi with the question, how do you use Pilates in your physical therapy practice?
Okay, this is kind of my bread and butter and what I do day in and day out. And basically, I use Pilates equipment and the Pilates principles and apply them to the patients that I see. So I could be seeing somebody for low back pain, but low back pain can be caused by many different things. And let's say somebody has a back that is really tight. I can put them on a piece of Pilates equipment and change all sorts of angles and resistances and use different props to support the body and assist and facilitate certain motions so that I can teach the patient, to start using the area that they've been avoiding using because of their pain. So if we keep having pain in our life and we just kind of move forward and ignore it, it builds up in our body. And one of the things that Pilates is very instrumental in doing is kind of picking apart the body and then building it back up from its deepest layers in a very joint friendly, safe way. But mat Pilates is actually the hardest kind of Pilates out there. So most of my patients need to be on the reformer or something called the Cadillac, where I can really use the setup to isolate a certain muscle group or movement to teach them how to use it again with the proper muscle timing and all that. So it's amazing. A lot of people who've had pain, they just stop using that part of their body, like I said before, but just watching them gain confidence and gain their independence again is very powerful and very rewarding for them, because they just kind of thought, well, I'm never going to be able to do that again. And so it's giving them freedom of movement again. And Pilates is pretty complicated, which is why it's important to have a really good teacher, but also having a physical therapist to guide you through that process safely is also important. So that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
And this is to any of the panelists, and I don't know if this is opening up a can of worms. And Rhondi, thank you for being here. Rhondi's been a friend and colleague for many years. I'm thrilled to see her again. But I've always told my patients, and I rely on Pilates professionals like Rhondi, Kendall, and Kelsey, often for my low back patients as they're coming out of a rehabilitation process or during the rehabilitation process. But I've always told them, and maybe I'm wrong, that they have to learn the mat principles first before they get on the Cadillac or the reformer, and that maybe to get those things down before they hop on there. Now, that contradicts what you just said, that the mat is harder and therefore you put people on the machines beforehand. So I was just looking for some education surrounding that. And that goes to you, but also Kendall or Kelsey can pipe in as well.
Okay, I'll take that real quick. The Matt, you said like the principles. So I definitely use the mat principles on the equipment, but there's if somebody's and also I use them for home exercise programs. So if I'm working with a patient and we've been working on something on the reformer or the Cadillac, but I want them to continue working on that at home, I'll definitely give them a mat-based exercise. But maybe they're not going through the range of motion as much, or maybe they're not doing as many repetitions or involving their neck or whatever. So I'll let the other two speak to that.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. And, I've worked with clients both with mat Pilates and reformer, and you can teach the Pilates principles on the reformer, but I agree with Rhondi, mat Pilates is much harder, and I don't want to say there's less modifications, but there's a lot of extension exercises, rollovers, so a lot of flexibility through your spine, whereas the reformer or Cadillac, all of those different things add different springs, ways to add assistance or resistance, so it adds a little bit of a different challenge, but there's a whole new level to mat Pilates.
So in short, just trust my Pilates professional to make the right decision, and I should just not even try to be an expert. So I'll just keep my yap shut and go see one of these guys. I got you. I'm reading between the lines. Thank you.
I've heard you guys mention low back pain or discomfort. For those of us who are feeling the strain of our daily laptop use, where do you suggest we start for minimizing that discomfort or incorporating Pilates?
Rhondi, I'll let you take that if you want.
Okay. Well, because of our forward bent posture, you know, like we're all on our computers like this or on our phones, the first thing I recommend is variety. So getting up and changing the height of your screen, standing for some of it. If you're mousing a lot, move your mouse down some of the time, have it more central, have it out to the side so that your body isn't in the same position, you know, throughout the whole day. I think that's pretty obvious. But the other thing that I would suggest is doing what we call in physical therapy, reversing the curve. So if we're always forward bent and doing a lot of flexion, then we need to incorporate some extension into our day. And so you could just even put your hands behind your head and like gently press your head into your hands with a small chin tuck to stretch the back of your neck. You can be on your chair and kind of lean backwards over your chair and just start to open up the front of your chest. There's some amazing Pilates exercises that can be used in this to get us into some extension. But you also need to be very careful doing them so that you aren't compressing your vertebrae as you're like bending backwards. There's also a lot of postural control exercises in Pilates where we call that working your back side of your body or your posterior side of your body. And so Pilates can be very effective in that. One of the great things about doing Pilates is just the balanced muscle work. We're always working on symmetry, always working on balancing out the body. So if we've done a lot of forward bent stuff, we're going to, you know, maybe do less of that in your Pilates session and add some more, you know, posterior exercises, extension exercises, side body exercises, rotational exercises, just to give your body what it needs.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Kendall, do you want to jump in with, you know, for the audience, what are some upcoming Pilates events? So we're talking about what this is. How do I get started?
Yeah, so March 17th, we are doing a Pilates basics class. So, you know, what we've been talking about, the 5 basic principles, the foundations of Pilates, really kind of breaking that down for anyone who has been taking Pilates this entire time that we've been doing it virtually. It's a good way for you to, again, go back to basics, see if there's anything that you need to change, if you've been doing wrong throughout the process, or, you know, again, just a good review. So it's good for seasoned plus beginner, you know, employees or clients taking class. So that's this March 17th. And then March 24th is going to be with a mini stability ball. So I mentioned this during class. A good ball to purchase is between like 7 to 9 inches. You can get it off of Amazon. You can get it at Menards. I mean, they're in kids sections. It doesn't have to have that stability ball name to it. And then lastly, the 31st is going to be a Pilates sculpt. So Kelsey's got one right there. That's what it looks like. And then again, the 31st Pilates sculpt, so we'll be using 1 to 3 pound weights, or you can use canned goods too. So that's kind of the breakdown for Pilates Mat-ness for March.
Perfect. Those are great free events coming up. If you're feeling mostly healthy and ready to jump right in, I encourage you to check those out. Rhondi, for you, how do we measure our level of discomfort, or when do we know when it's time to seek professional help for our pain?
That's a great question, and I wish more people asked that question. In my opinion, pain that kind of lingers and you don't ever get a break from is bad pain, meaning you should go to bed at night and wake up and not have pain, right? So, but if you had pain the day before and now you've slept through the whole night and you wake up with pain again, that is your body's way of telling you that something is needing attention. And, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean you need to go to the doctor and something's pathologically wrong with you, but our bodies really get out of balance very easily. And a physical therapist could do an assessment and just say, hey, yeah, your hip flexors are way tight and too active, and you're, you know, they just can do an assessment of what might be pulling too much or another area that might be too weak, or maybe you are needing a postural education or some biomechanics training to learn, like, because a lot of people, they're like, oh, I'm going to start this program because I'm going to get in shape, but then they end up hurting themselves, or they start to get knee pain, and then they end up like not being able to keep their forward motion with their exercise program. And if that's happening, it might mean that your technique is just off a little and you just need some professional help talking through your technique and learning the proper mechanics and making sure that your body is supported in the right way as you're trying to gain intensity and volume of your training. And a physical therapist is really good at helping with that. So pain that doesn't ever get better or pain that worsens, we say is bad pain, in that it's not just your body is obviously at its limit and hasn't figured out how to fix itself. So you just need a little added help. And that's what a physical therapist is great at helping with.
That's great. It's nice to know that there are options out there. We don't have to live with that discomfort.
Correct.
So as I was researching, but preparing to moderate this, I noticed that so many of the photos on the internet show women doing Pilates. Why is that? And is the practice better for men or women?
I can start if you want. So my reasoning why men should do Pilates, you know, one of it is the flexibility and the balance portion of it. A strong, flexible spine is our ally, and without ease of movement and good posture, we become more, you know, prone to injuries. So when we're doing things like, let's say on the reformer, there's a lot of standing exercises, standing on top of the machine and doing, let's say, side splits. So you're balanced on top. The carriage, which is a moving part of the machine, is sliding back and forth. Meanwhile, you're trying to maintain balance. So I think it's the reformer can be a very humbling experience, and same thing with mat Pilates. So again, a big portion of it, I feel like, is flexibility and balance. And as we age, that tends to diminish.
Yeah, I'll add, first of all, like Kendall said earlier, Joseph Pilates created Pilates and he was a dude. Mm-hmm. So there is a very big strength base. I used to be a gymnast, and one of the things that attracted me to Pilates was how much strength you have to have. And so this is obviously great for men and women, but I call it strength with length. So as the muscle is lengthening, you have to control your whole body against a resistance. And so you're gaining strength with length, which is very different than some of the compacting like squats and you know, lat pull downs where everything's coming into the body. So Pilates is very lengthening, and you have to be really strong holding that position. And you also are building strength from the inside out. So the deepest layer of you is getting stronger and more stable, which you can apply to everything you do, whether you play golf, whether you play hockey, whether you are like a CrossFit person. I almost said TC Fit, CrossFit person, whatever kind of training you're doing, running, like what you learn in Pilates, you take with you everywhere you go, whether you're sitting at your desk or you're in the car on a car trip or you're working out. So that is very powerful. I've trained NHL players. I've trained Minnesota Twins. They love it because it awakens something new in their body, and we all need this. You don't have to be a professional athlete to benefit from it, but it awakens like what you've been missing, like those deep layers. And then you have these aha moments and you're like, oh my gosh, so like that makes so much more sense to me. So men, because they tend to be a little tighter in their lats and tighter in their hips, Pilates is very good, like Kendall said, for kind of improving that flexibility, but also having strength. You're not just stretching and you're not just strengthening, you're doing it all together the whole time.
So we're coming up on the last few minutes of our forum. I just want to open it up to the audience again in case there are any questions out there. And while we wait to see those questions pour in, Kendall, what are 100s and why do we see them in so many Pilates classes?
I feel like it's people's nemesis, and I don't know why. But Pilates hundreds is really based on endurance, being able to maintain the flexion forward the entire time, the breathing, the control of it, being able to activate your abdominals and really sink your navel to your spine. Meanwhile, your legs are either in tabletop or long to your diagonal, maintaining an imprint. So there's a lot going on, and it's a great exercise. And there's always ways to add more challenge to it. But really, it's just building up the endurance of your abdominals and your spine to maintain the flexion.
The only thing I would add to that is that when you're doing the hundreds, which is 10 sets of 10, you have to like hold your abdominals in that position, but you have to learn to breathe. And one of Joseph Pilates' main principles had to do with breathing, and it's super hard to breathe while you're doing the hundreds. So it's kind of like an exercise that takes a long time, like to build up to and to become successful at. And so it's kind of one of those things that you can say, oh my gosh, I did the 100. And it's usually considered a warm-up exercise, but it's really hard. It's not a very easy warm-up exercise. And so it's an accomplishment when you can do the whole 100.
And I will add, it's even more challenging instructing while breathing and talking at the same time.
Yeah.
Rhondi, I'm going to share your contact info in the chat box. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience as we come to the end of our event today?
I guess what I would say is, people ask me, oh, is Pilates just a trend? Is it a fad? Is it going to be around anymore? Like some people don't realize that, like Kendall said, it's been around since the 1920s, but it hasn't really been in the general population except for since the year 2000. And because it's so transformative in helping your body make these changes that you have been missing and wishing you could have, I think it's going to be around forever. And also people are like, why is Pilates so expensive? And it takes a lot of training to get credentialed as a teacher. And then you are doing this detailed body work one-on-one with people a lot. And that's why it's expensive. Mat Pilates is a great way to enter in an inexpensive way. And if you have benefits that you can use and take advantage of taking Pilates, then I would say that you should give it a full 6 weeks of trying it before you decide whether or not it's for you.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. We do have a question from the audience. How would you compare Pilates to yoga?
Oh, that's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
That is such a good question. I'm going to preface it with Pilates is only as good as the teacher teaching you. Just like you can have a great doctor or a not so great doctor, or a great massage therapist and not such a great massage therapist. Same thing with yoga. So, just in general, if you're having two good teachers, a great yoga teacher and a great Pilates instructor, I feel like Pilates is working a lot on integrating your whole body, like making it all work together in a very inner strength way, so that strength base. And it's maybe more flow than holding. And I feel like yoga can be more of release work, and Pilates is more connection.
There's also a lot of choreography with Pilates. As you start to learn more exercises, there's more, especially on the reformer, we are moving upper body, meanwhile stabilizing your pelvis and mobilizing your legs and adding different movements. And so it's like rubbing your belly and tapping your head at the same time and breathing and all these different things to think about. So it's also a mind-body connection. So some people can have some difficulty learning okay, I'm doing this while doing this, and I'm breathing and all these different things. So there's a lot of choreography with it that can be overwhelming at first, but then just becomes second nature. And again, you take it into other formats of fitness too.
Kelsey, you teach both formats. Is there anything else you'd want to add?
Those Kendall and Rhondi summed it up perfectly. I would say, yeah, with yoga, there are flowing segments, but I'd say more static work where you're just holding a pose and whatnot and sinking deep into flexibility. Whereas Pilates, yes, it's more of a flow, movement, choreography and whatnot. I mean, they're both really good, right? I very much enjoy both of them. So it's good to do both.
Absolutely.
We're coming up on the end of our time, but we do have a shout out to Kendall's Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pilates class and a participant who says they've tried it and love it. Kendall, is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience before we close out today?
Well, thanks, Andrea, for the shout out. But also, try not to be intimidated with Pilates. It really is made for everyone. And like Rhondi said, we go through such extensive training to accommodate for everyone. It's a little bit more tough through virtually because there's so much tweaking and manual manipulation that we do in person, but we try to throw out modifications as much as we can. So yeah, try not to be intimidating. Everyone can do it. Give it a try. See if you like it. And like any other format, if you don't like it, you don't like it. But it's a really great format for flexibility, strength, everything.
Well, thank you to all of our presenters, Kelsey, Kendall, Rhondi, and to the audience for your participation today. Please feel free to share your feedback with any of our fitness center team, and we look forward to seeing you in Pilates class or at our next Fitness Forum snackable workouts on March 24th. See you soon.
Thanks.
Bye.